Today I have Caitlin Hart with me from Microsoft. I am an MVP and attend a lot of NDA sessions. And last week we actually attended MVP Summit. And there was a lot of questions and chatter from the MVPs. And I said, Caitlin, please, can you come on and share some of this information publicly? So I have a lot of questions for you today. And first, if you can introduce yourself and tell us a
Sure.
little bit about some of the projects that you have been on.
Sure. My name is Caitlin Hart. I'm a group product manager on the Outlook team. Uh, Projects that I've been on. Well, I've been working on the new Outlook for I think the last 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Before that, I've been on the calendar team. I was on the to do team. I started work on Outlook in 2014, so over a decade. Oh no, and Microsoft long before that. So I was on Windows before Outlook, but Outlook is just such a great product and used by so many people. It's a source of unending, interesting problems to work on. So I absolutely love it. And thank you for having me. This is a great treat.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I was excited. There was a couple of things that was said at the MVP summit. I was like, I got to get her and see if she would do an interview. So I am on Tech Community. I am on Reddit, a lot of social media platforms, LinkedIn, and there's a lot of questions around, Outlook is just a wrapper, of the online version. And I never know what to say or how to respond to that. Can you help me out here?
Sure. I mean, it's a popular misconception because you can install a PWA of Outlook Web, but you wouldn't get the rich client functionality that you get from the native shell wrapper that we host the new Outlook in. So we have a desire to have a consistent experience no matter where you use Outlook. That's sort of
Mm-hmm.
the essence of this project is a step in that direction, right? We
Mm-hmm.
want you to have a consistent experience whether you're on the web or in the client on Windows. If you are using a Windows client, though, you expect it to integrate with Windows notifications, like background calendar notifications if the app is closed, offline support, streamlined file handling. So those are things that we add through a native shell in addition to the web experience. But we benefit from having the same user experience as web, and we've been trying to progressively over the last couple of years bring the feature set closer together. So sort of the best of
Mm-hmm.
both worlds,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can bring the best of what people have appreciated about the Windows rich client into the web. And so the web experience has been getting better, but then we also have the same experience wherever you use Outlook. If you're using it in the browser, you shouldn't have to have a different feature set than
Right.
you would if you're using the app.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's certainly reasonable to see where that assumption comes from, but it is different than just a web experience or just a PWA.
Yeah, I know that I've been using New Outlook, even before 2023, right? And there were a lot of differences. You had to kind of switch your brain on, okay, what features are here. But I am start seeing a lot of consistency between the two now. Hopefully, that we'll see that with the mobile as well.
Yeah, I mean it is quite a journey. We have a lot of different, actually probably our top feedback on Outlook for a long time that we've heard from people is that the experience of Outlook is different wherever you use it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's obnoxious. It's
Mm-hmm.
obnoxious from a user perspective. It's obnoxious if you see your colleague using a feature and they're on a Mac and you're on Windows and you say, "Well, how did you do that?" Like that's it's not great for anybody. It's not great for
Mm-hmm.
people who manage Outlook. So we've been taking steps in the direction of having fewer versions of
Yeah.
Outlook, fewer different code bases. And this is the unification of the big screen Windows code bases.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. So, the second most common question I get is why Outlook Classic, all the features are not available in new Outlook? Why they just didn't recreate Classic in new Outlook?
Yeah, it's also a good question. I mean, Classic Outlook has been around for several decades.
Yeah,
Which
close
means
to
there are a
30
lot,
years.
yeah, there are a lot of rich features. In some cases, they're features that are not as relevant as they were 10 or 20 years ago. Our goal is to bring forward the ones that people most need and miss from the classic experience. So we started with a set that we knew would be important just based on past research, telemetry, our knowledge of classic Outlook and what people are most attached to. And we've been working through a backlog of big ones like offline support, PST support, as well as smaller features that can be really huge for individuals' workflows like search folders, folder customization, etc. The reason this is a multi-year effort is to make sure we have an opportunity to hear from people who try the new experience and find it lacking one thing or another. These sometimes we can refer to as paper cuts, like, oh, but I really needed that one thing, or like this one rule thing that I needed, or this one. There's always something for somebody, and we're trying to find the ones that are most painful and bring them forward. But for a lot of people, I mean, we have millions of users who have been using the web experience, so for many people, it might be adequate to start with what we had even in the beta timeframe in May 2022, right? If you were just using the capabilities from web, come on in, right? You can try the new experience and give us feedback about what you want to see next, or get a preview of where we're going. But we also know that there are a lot of things that people are going to need from Classic, and we have a long backlog of them. Even our own usage doesn't tell the whole story, because it doesn't necessarily tell us what features are critical to workflows, and it can miss user groups that are power users or of particular people who like entirely depend on Outlook working for them, like exec admins who use delegated mailboxes and calendars. Like they're a small subset, but they have some really critical features that we have to bring forward. And so having the feedback really helps us to zoom in on those.
Yeah, because I was going to ask what the follow-up question is, how do you determine which features get rolled out next?
Yeah, a lot of it is just frequency of the feedback. So when we see something rising to the top, right now I think one of our top ones is PST, and we've been working on that for a while, and rolling out a number of stages of it right now, actually. And we look at what people say they miss the most. We had a very top trend that people wanted to be able to have custom folder ordering, and that recently rolled out. And then we've just been shipping away through the next things that rise up to the top. And it's not all in sequence, right? We have a lot of things going in parallel, but the feedback signal that we get from people who leave and go back to Classic and say, oh, I was missing this one feature, or, oh, I just couldn't get this view quite right. That is all super, super helpful in getting us to prioritize those things. So we look at that feedback every day.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you do, because quick parts and templates have been what I've been hearing, and that's what's on my list. So you talked about, you said, you just mentioned PSTs, and I'm thinking about resistance when it comes to adoption, right? Especially the power users, consultants, IT admins, to where I'm actually hearing them say that we are forced to use this, application, and it doesn't have all the features. So I have two questions here. One, what do you say about the resistance from the IT, or from the community and from the users? And the second one is, why do you roll out some of these features gradually or in parts? Because I had one person to say that PST is broken. I don't have all the functionality, and so it's just broken.
Good question. You mentioned VBA. I mean, power users who are using certain capabilities that are missing, I definitely understand why they would find gaps today. We're not removing access to Classic right now. Right now, we're trying to create momentum for more people to try the new Outlook and tell us what's missing. But everybody can go back to Classic at this point. So we're not at a stage where you can't just say this is not for me and go back. This is again a multi-year project for exactly that reason, because we're trying to find all those missing scenarios and just keep adding them until we really get to a critical tipping point and can move everybody over.
And hold that thought,
Yeah.
because you
Oh, yeah.
said multi-year, and because that was another question I get all the time that I don't have an answer for. Why roll it out gradually in this state versus having a good core, have 80% of it done and then roll it out. Think about the old days that when every 3 years we get an application, right? Now we're getting like bits and pieces of it. So why roll it out like that?
So, oh man, I don't think I've heard people refer to the every 3 year software cycle as the good old days.
I've been around from day one.
I mean, the downside of having such long software development cycles is we don't have that ability to iterate, the ability to hear from people and change course or add things in. We could hear from people like, "Why is this taking so long? Why can't we just see what you're doing?" And for the majority of users, if you just have one or many email accounts and a work and personal calendar, perhaps a few shared calendars, they can find everything they can use in New Outlook today, and probably a lot of things that have been high on their wish list for Classic are already in New Outlook. It's already where we've been able to bring things fastest for many years. So you can take a look at our feedback portal and you can see the top requests from Classic for ages, the things that people have been asking us for. And a lot of them are already in there. Proper Google Calendar and iCloud support, folder colors, syncing email signatures, like the default assumption that your settings should roam wherever you are, preserve declined meetings, pinning emails. Like these are things that are already in the new experience. And so if we were to hold back and say, nope, we are not going to let anybody use the new experience until we have fully supported PST, then we hear from people who say, who uses PSTs anymore? I don't use PSTs. Just tell me the new experience. Just let me try it. And so we want to be able to offer new value faster, and being agile, being the essence of this project is agility. We want to be able to bring that new value faster. And for anybody who is ready to try it and is ready to switch in, it also allows a lot of time for the greater ecosystem to prepare and try and feel what that change will be and give us feedback, but also just prepare the things that we know that people rely on. There are tons of trainings, folks like you who create great videos and help sort of tell people about the tips and tricks. Those take time to sort of get out there. And so if we just did a hard switch and then everybody switches over, I think that would be a lot more pain. One of our top feedback themes is just who moved my cheese, which is very righteous. If it's different, if it's in a different place, if it's slightly different, it takes time to adjust. But then, I talk to users who switch in, they try to give it a chance. It's a little different, and maybe they have to do a little bit of learning. But then check in a couple months later, and they're like, now if I go back, it feels older. Like I don't. I'm using so many things that I've become attached to that I really like the new experience. So that's the kind of signal we're looking for, and the kind of signal we wouldn't get if we waited for it to be ready for everybody.
I kind of interrupted last question as well.
Yeah.
But why do you think there's resistance?
I mean, if you are missing certain capabilities, VBA users, they may be in the minority of overall Outlook users, but yeah, if there's no replacement for that scenario, I can absolutely understand why they wouldn't be ready to switch in. And that's up to us to be able to replace those scenarios or guide how to move forward into the new Outlook. Shared mailboxes is one that there are a number of items coming up on the roadmap. If you are a heavy shared mailbox user, what we support right now is you can have shared resources. So like shared folders, you can open up a shared mailbox, but it's basically just the folders that you're opening up. You don't get to manage the settings of it, like all the automatic replies. So if you're a heavy shared mailbox user, it's not going to meet your needs right now, but it will in I think a month or so. We have things that are imminently heading out the door. And so it's something that, again, we've been trying to progressively offer pieces of functionality that unblock the majority of people first. A good example of this was when we released offline support. Initially, the very first piece of offline support, I think would maybe better be characterized as resiliency to unstable networks. Like if people said like, oh, my network went out and then I lost the mail view that I was looking at and I can't keep. Okay, well, we can just keep the mails that you have open and that you're trying to read. Like, you should be able to just keep doing that. But then, of course, the next thing is composing emails or searching or using your calendar. Those are the additional capabilities that you need in order to really have full offline support. So we didn't want to wait for perfect offline support with all of those capabilities to be able to offer the nuggets of functionality that would maybe help a good number of users in the basics. PST support, we initially started with just opening and seeing the content that's in an existing PST, right? Bare basics unblocks people who just want to see that they didn't lose their content and they can access and see it, right? But then, of course, it's email management. It's the ability to reply, forward, use emails the way that you expect to use emails. Calendar and contacts will come later. Those are the additional pieces that would truly offer PST support and replace how they use it in Classic. So we know that, but if we waited on all of those pieces, then people who just needed the basics would be waiting for a lot longer.
So that's going to lead me to asking, when do you think that New Outlook is really ready? Ready for the majority? And I don't know, can you share how many users you have to date that is using New Outlook?
Oh, I haven't looked at the numbers this week. We have tens of millions. I think we're a ton of users who have switched over to the New Outlook and are using it for daily usage, or maybe just dipping their toes in and trying it. And we're seeing patterns of usage that are the majority of what users use Outlook for. And then the top feedback areas, as mentioned, if I'm an advanced user of shared mailboxes, or if I really need PST support, those are the ones who switch back. So the roadmap, we have details on the stages of those kind of big rocks, is what we've been referring to them as, like the big meaty features that have multiple stages to roll out. Those are the folks who switch out right now, but are starting to be able to switch in. If you just needed kind of basic PST support, be able to see and access like stuff that you put into a PST, you can, and those people are starting to switch in. I would say the most common next one after that, shared mailboxes, is imminently going to be rolling out, and that's an area that we're super proud of because we're trying to make improvements that shared mailbox users have wanted from us in Classic for ages. That'll be in the next couple months, but we're already seeing that for a lot of users, they're able to switch in and they're able to stick with it, and it's meeting their needs. So it highly depends on what type of Outlook user you are. But we think that we're at that point where most users should be able to switch in and be comfortable.
Good. Thank you for that. So at MVP Summit, there was something that was shared that just really, put a little fire up under me and got me excited. It was the 3 pillars, the three migration pillars. Can you share that with this group? And because I just thought it was a great for everyone to hear, and not just the MVPs.
You're talking about agility, consistency, and manageability?
Yes, and I love that the gentleman added the 4th one, which was the training. Yeah, so can you talk through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So agility, I think I've mentioned, agility is a core to this project. The code base that we're working with in the New Outlook is where, for many years, as part of offering it in the web experience, we've been able to bring new features faster. The world of work changes faster than a 3-year software development cycle, right? It changes a lot faster than we can bring capabilities to the Classic client. And so as we listen to the way that modern work is changing, the way that people use Outlook, we want to be able to respond faster to security fixes. It's something that we can do a lot better in this code base. So not only can we offer better productivity enhancements and delighters, be able to respond to things like when people started working in a hybrid environment and expect to see capabilities that reflect that, being able to have remote or in-person work hours. We can do things like you'll see new Copilot capabilities faster in New Outlook, richer theming, visuals. It's faster for us to resolve issues, so we ship every week, right? We can ship new features and fixes within days instead of going through our sort of multiple month cycle of getting things out to everybody through the channel system. So we have the ability to keep up with the demands of modern work with this code base, and it's something that we think will offer a lot more value faster. Consistency. I mentioned bringing the best of both worlds, the best of web and the best of the features of the rich client on Windows together. We've been talking about this concept of one Outlook for a number of years, and the same experience of Outlook wherever you go, whatever version of Outlook you use, it starts with having just fewer versions to begin with. And so feature consistency in our modern code base, we already have a lot more feature consistency with Mac and mobile too, even though those are different code bases. It allows us to simplify how fast you can switch between multiple clients, and we can reduce the amount of kind of training. Like 30 years ago, people had training that they would have to go through to learn how to use this big new thing, this Outlook rich client. We're aiming to have fewer big training moments. Obviously, this is a big one where people will have to take a little time to learn how the new Outlook works, but it shouldn't be something where, if you switch from one version of Outlook to another, if you switch from a Mac to Windows or something, you have to completely relearn everything. We're trying to get more consistency, and we can do that a lot faster with this code base. We're also looking for just better management, so you don't have to manage the delivery of new features by testing every bit of a new build that comes out. We have more modular, I guess, feature delivery. We have faster problem fixes, and so a new feature comes out, and we put it on the roadmap. We tell you it's coming, and that feature, sort of in isolation, is something that would change, but not everything else out from under you with like a big new build change. So it should be easier to manage. You don't have to manage delivering all those builds to all of your users if you're an IT admin, and it's something that it just reduces complexity over time.
Like I said, we talked about at MVP Summit, training is the honorable mention pillar that was appreciated by the MVPs. And I do encourage, folks, there are resources available on the adoption website. Visit the roadmap and the admin center for what's coming, what's been rolled out, and what's been developed. And I also would like for you to share the website that you have that shows the classic versus new Outlook features, which I go to that every month, by the way. And you right now, Microsoft have that list categorized in 13 categories. And what I've done is actually take that list and reorganize it to where it's based on availability, what's coming, what's unsupported. So if you could just talk a little bit about that comparison website would be nice.
Sure, and I'm hoping you can make a link available when you post this video.
Will do.
It's on the support.microsoft.com site, and the feature comparison article, I'm glad you look at it regularly because I update it almost every week. We have things that ship or that somebody asks me about, and they want to know, oh, is this coming? And I can add that to the list to reflect sort of the current status. We have a lot that are coming, a lot that are either in consideration or we're evaluating the feedback before we decide whether or not it will be bumped up the list and make it into new Outlook. But we're trying to consolidate that into a list where you can see and access support articles. We've also been changing how our support articles are structured. So if you browse those, now you can see, here's how I did it in Classic, here's how I do it in New Outlook, and you can see the sort of tabbed version of instructions for equivalent features. Those are things that, again, feature by feature, we keep modifying as we add things to the roadmap, or as we get requests for new things or feedback about new features. We're trying to reflect that in the feature comparison article. Trainings, it's I think one of the reasons that we have not been able to offer like a monolithic training for how to use the new Outlook yet is it's changing.
Forever changing.
It's we could spend so much time creating like a big training effort, and then it would be something that we would immediately have to modify. So we've been trying to offer the documentation and sort of nuggets of information about individual users, or about individual features, or features that would be of interest to individual users. We have an article on tips and tricks for delegates, for instance, and we try to keep adding to that as new things come out. But those are things that we can do faster in sort of our documentation on support.microsoft.com. And we will probably get to a point where we can offer more robust training as we get to sort of a more stable point, but it's too difficult to pin down right now. And even on that feature comparison table, we don't have a lot that we've listed as completely not supported. Right? Architecturally, we're not supporting COM add-ins, for instance. We can say confidently those are not going to be supported. The essence of the add-ins model for New Outlook is that we can offer cross-platform, right? Web add-ins are more sandboxed, and so they offer a more stable, less thrashy Outlook, and they are the model of add-ins that we're moving towards. But other features, I'm not going to say are not supported unless we confidently are just not going to bring them forward. We're trying to evaluate feedback as it comes in, and then a lot of those graduate to in progress or rolling out and then supported.
The next segment, I grouped these conversations based on gaps, feedback, and forward planning, right? So in, like I said, I'm very active on LinkedIn, put a post out there that kind of highlighted some of the unsupported features, and VBA was one of them. And that post got a lot of attention. So one of the things that I have suggested, some of the feedback that people were sharing is that they are concerned, especially for their clients, small businesses, that it's time and money, right? They don't have time and money, and they also think they have this big window because they know Classic is going to be, supported until 2029. Right? And so it just makes me nervous when I hear that these VBA developers, IT consultants are saying do nothing yet when it comes to, these custom VBAs. What do you say? What do you say to the developers that are having that thinking? What would you say to the business owners who think they have really the time to wait around?
Yeah, well, VBA used by a smaller section of the Outlook population, but important for what they're using it for. I can understand why that would be a hard blocker. But again, for a lot of people who just want to be able to prepare themselves for the new Outlook experience and move forward in giving us feedback of what else they need, I definitely wouldn't want to wait until years from now to tell us, oh, I need this, critical view or this, particular way to view my conversations. Like that's feedback that we're going to have less ability to act on quickly before, we get to that sort of cutover stage where people are moving from Classic and in later years. Getting feedback now about what might be missing, and also getting the clarity of what's just hard to adjust to versus, really like I can't do a workflow without this thing. It's so important for us to have early so that we can act on it. yeah, for people who are using VBAs, I can understand how it's painful. The decision to not support VBA in the new Outlook is driven by a need for a more stable and secure architecture. Right, we've been moving toward graph APIs and just a more sandboxed architecture because while powerful, it can introduce vulnerabilities and stability by allowing deep manipulation of the mailbox object model. Right, the new architecture aims to mitigate issues, provide a more controlled environment, and better performance and reliability. This is something that is really tough to balance, and so we need to understand the scenarios that are irreplaceable because of a lack of certain things that we don't have. Getting information about what it's being used for, we can advise what we would recommend instead, or if there is a replacement for the scenario, or if there isn't, we can work through that. This is something that, yeah, I understand why it's not easy to switch if you are using those like advanced scripting type workflows, but for that to guide whether the population at large is ready to switch, that I think is a little misguided because the population at large is not doing those things.
Very good. The next segment is just someone to just ask you, what would you share that I haven't covered that you would like end users to know?
Oh man, I I think the one of the reasons that it has been difficult to just summarize the one-two punch of why to switch to new Outlook is because of how many features are scattered around the experience that people have been asking for in Classic. I've mentioned this earlier. I think that it is highly worthwhile taking a day and just switching in and poking around at all the different things that you can do. Check out the feature comparison article and just see what is supported now that maybe you didn't have before. A lot of the top feedback, I love some of the improvements in calendaring, like the series management, or you can follow meetings, and then I have a filter on my calendar so I can hide the things that I'm not attending, but I still have access to all the resources. There are things that just require a little bit of playing to discover, but it is so worthwhile. It's something that I think you might need to fully appreciate what new options are available to you to see how your workflow can evolve, or new capabilities that are really important to you. Mail triage, or mail actions that people use to sort their inbox is another one that's highly dependent on what you care about. And there are new options like snooze and pin. I have a quick step that's just called not today, and I flag an email as due tomorrow, and I snooze it for tomorrow, so it gets out of my face, but I know I'm going to come back to it.
I like the sweep command. The sweep command is my favorite. Just
Emails that come in from one robot mailbox. There are things that if you tinker around with them, I think that you'll find some favorites.
very good. Well, so the other thing is, tell us something about you that has nothing to do with Microsoft and Outlook, since you've been, living in that world for a very long time. What would you like for us to know about Caitlin Hart?
Oh, let's see. Well, I'm based in Portland, Oregon. I was up in the Redmond campus of Microsoft for many years, but I've been in Portland, Oregon for 6 years or so, 7 years, and I, I started knitting this year. I knit like 7 sweaters this winter. Although now I'm a I don't knit during, or I don't do any of my fiber arts during daylight saving time. So now I've got to switch to my summer hobbies and get biking more. That's a very Portland thing to do, going out going out biking.
Very good. Very good. Well, Caitlin, I really appreciate you joining me. Like I said, there's times when I'm in those PGA meetings or at Summit, and I'm just rooting you guys on, but I'm also being the bridge for, the end users as well. And I'm glad that you were here to share some of the information, share some of the back and of the information for the end users. So I really appreciate you for joining me.
Thanks for doing this, and I appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.